Janna received some very needed buffs after her rework flopped, and now she's very OP. Her playstyle has changed from a low interactive shield bot support to a hyper aggressive Chad support. This new iteration of Janna is focused on heavy skirmishing. The change to a flat 30% from her passive where she gets bonus magic damage on her W and autos for movement speed is what makes her super OP. My new build plays around fully utilizing the damage from this, and I've been finding a lot of success going flash, ignite with W max and playing very aggressively. Janna doesn't scale as hard as she used to, but it's easily made up by her damage. The best keystone for this new Janna is Airy. In the past, there's been a lot of debate on if Airy or Glacial was the best, but now Airy just makes the most sense. You want extra damage and shielding because you want to be fighting a lot more. I know some people like going Comet, and while it usually does do more damage than Airy, Airy gives more stats in damage and shielding overall. Comet definitely gives you a lot more kill pressure in lane, but if you end up behind, extra damage is not as valuable as extra shielding, so I think Airy is just the most consistent. For the other runes, I like taking Mana Flow Band, Celerity, and Gathering Storm. Celerity is really nice because your W gives you extra movement speed already, and it synergizes well with her passive damage. For Scorch vs Gathering Storm, same idea as Airy vs Comet, and that Scorch can snowball early but doesn't scale as well. I'd much rather have that safety of Gathering Storm. For the secondary runes, I like going Domination and taking Taste of Blood and Relentless Hunter. I like taking Taste of Blood because I play very aggressively in lane and Sustain helps with trades. Relentless Hunter makes the most sense because movement speed on Janna just synergizes really well with her kit and Celerity. For the rune shards, I like going attack speed, adaptive, and armor or MR just depending on the matchup. I know the attack speed shard sounds crazy, but the extra damage you get from her passive is very OP, so if you utilize this to its fullest, you do a lot of damage. For the items, I like opening with Boots and Darksteel because of how strong Janna's early game is. You have a lot of kill pressure with this new Janna and you can snowball lane super hard. Boots not only helps with you being able to space better, but it also gives you more damage on your passive. You can see my passive giving me 12 extra damage on my W and autos before Boots and 21 after Boots. The movement speed damage from passive is so OP that I now rush tier 2 Boots before my mythic. For Ionian Boots, you go from 21 extra damage to 27, and with Swifties, you go from 21 to 32. I used to preach that rushing mythic on Janna was the best, but the amount of damage you get from tier 2 Boots alone is worth delaying it. Now for another classic question, Moonstone or Shurelyas? I've been playing both, and I think it depends on your comp and the enemy comp. The easiest way to decide is if I have a beefy frontline, I'll go Moonstone. If not, I'll go Shurelyas. For example, this game, I went Moonstone because I have an amazing frontline with Gwen, Jarvan, and Irelia, so keeping them alive will make it very hard for the enemy team. For this game, my comp has no engage, so going Shurelyas will help us find angles to fight. And also, I always go Ardent with Shurelyas because it synergizes the best, and having it with 3 auto-based champions here is really good. I didn't have Ardent here because I went Medjayas, but you get the idea. If you are going to go Moonstone, you always pair it with Redemption since the healing amplification works really well with Moonstone. I always recommend rushing Redemption over Moonstone because if you are going W max, you won't get as much value from Moonstone first, and also I find that Redemption is just a better first item in general as you have more influence from the range, healing, and damage. If you are going to go Shurelyas, like I said earlier, you want to pair it with Ardent or Staff or both most of the time. It makes the most sense as the movement speed will allow your teammate with the buff to utilize it to the max. Also, Shurelyas synergizes really well with your passive because the extra movement speed gives you more damage, and if you go Ardent, you also get the on-hit magic damage as well. Just look at the damage I'm doing with Shurelyas active and Ardent. For the rest of the items, you can flex any of these. Heal Cut is nice because your autos have magic damage, so you can actually proc it a lot. I think rushing Mikhail's is not bad in some drafts as well, and if you're really popping off, I like going Medjayas. I personally love having 10 stacks on Darksteel and then immediately dying and losing everything. On a serious note, getting 10 stacks on Medjayas is really OP on Janna because you get extra movement speed from it, and then Celerity amplifies that movement speed, which translates to more damage on your autos and passive and just more healing and shielding from the AP. Also, Medjayas is the cheapest legendary item, so you get mythic passive from your item. I will most of the time go Medjayas just because I like playing that high risk, high reward playstyle, and I think Janna has the ability to pop off every game. The most important tech to know about this new Janna is to always open fights with your E because her shield was changed so that it no longer gains heal and shield power on CC, and instead the cooldown of it is reduced by 20% of the remaining cooldown on slows and knockups. If you played a lot of the old Janna, it's a hard habit to break, but you should always shield first and be hyper aware of your W and R and the cooldown timing of your E. I was able to save my Aphelios here because my shield was perfectly up after I ulted. I know I've been saying this all video, but another important tech is to be able to auto space in fights to do as much damage as possible. I think this new Janna has a lot more skill expression, and being able to weave in autos in fights will be the difference between a good Janna and a great Janna. Don't just sit back and use your abilities, try to space the enemy with your autos and get that damage in. That concludes my guide. As someone that's played a lot of Janna, I think Riot did a really good job at this new skirmish heavy damage oriented version. It's a lot more fun and interactive. She's currently an S tier champ, and I think we'll probably be seeing nerfs next patch because currently she's a bit overtuned. Spam those Janna games and get that LP before she gets nerfed.